Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. It's the blackest man on social media signing black in again, asking you to hit that share button because the message is more important than the messenger. And I get straight to this message. In the end, it all comes down to one thing. When you're talking about why it's okay for brothers to bounce and why it's treachery when sisters swirl. And I understand why Edward Anderson would say, go ahead and tell sisters to swirl. Go ahead and tell them, first off, try to get a white man. Most of you can't. Then, on top of that, try to get, I add to that, and I say try to get even other men of color. Forget Mr. Charlie. Just try to get another man of color and watch what happens. So, what's going to happen is that you're going to get these white dudes, and they're coming from a patriarchal culture that's being changed, but it's still patriarchal. And I mean, they may not go across your mouth much, but they're more likely to go across your mouth than a white woman's mouth because they're still subconsciously conditioned. And if you go with these other men of color, they're going to just not even give you a chance because they know they can't go upside your mouth, but you're going to earn it. And then he goes, it gets more complicated than that. A lot of these other men of color know. They understand. They get it. You're coming from a matriarchal culture. You're used to running things. They've had to pay the cost to be the boss. They're the boss. And that's all there is to it. So it ain't going to work. They're going to go across your backside or go upside your head when you get out of line and you get up in their face. What you going to do? Smack? Oh my God, you hit me. If you don't get the hell out of my face, I'm going to hit you again. Because you're not allowed to cross them lines, especially when they paying the bills and paying the cost to be the boss. You talk about, you want to sit up and say, what you doing looking at other women? And they're going to turn to you and say, I don't even know which woman you're talking about. But you better lower your voice. Who you talking to? Smack. So, anyway, let me get to the title of this. Brothers bounce for a good reason. Good reasons, actually. As I've said before, we're too easy and we don't drive you away. Sisters are too difficult, and I'm really addressing brothers here. Sisters are too difficult and they do drive us away. They did. I mean, they drove me away. They definitely did. Before I met my current wife, I was already well aware that I was not going to be with a Western sister again. And that was not going to happen. Absolutely not. No, 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 no. I wasn't even going to think about it. So, well, I wouldn't say, yeah. Before I met her, I knew I wasn't going to do it. Now, let's go further. Let's talk about this imprint that you see in the title. When Western women are young, and when they're still girls, really, their type is the same 13% of guys. 14% maybe. That's it. And the other 85 to 87, depending on which statistic, the other are just not. Can't become their type. Just ain't they type. They ain't even looking at these guys. Nope, don't even want to think about it. They're insistent and intent upon sharing that 15 to 13% of men that they all want. That's the West. Now, let's look at us. We start off middle school, coming out of elementary, starting off middle with a primary type. Now, this primary type usually is going to be, for black men, a black woman, a black girl. Different shades depending on what the mothers have told them, but, a black girl. We're not generally looking at the white woman. We're not really sure, unless we've just developed an insane comfort level, we're not really looking at non-black women at that young of an age. Like I said, minus having a very serious comfort level. But That's the primary type. We developed later on what's called a conditioned type. I mean, let me just call it what it was. See, when I started middle school, I did not think of, I was completely neutral about women from the Asian continent. Completely neutral. I didn't think good or bad about them. I didn't think about them. By the time I finished and I went to high school, I was not really for or against them, but they could be considered if they were from the tropics. And what was the reason? Well, the process had already begun, and that process was some of them would show love. Sisters did not, unless, of course, a sister was busted up. Nobody else wanted her. But with the Asian women, they could, I wouldn't even say show love. They didn't flirt all the time, choosing signals. But I can say this, they were simply approachable and friendly, just friendlier. They simply were. They were that. They had that. And so I knew white girls were dangerous, but there was nothing particularly dangerous about, let's say, the Vietnamese with whom I went to my first high school. Nothing was particularly dangerous about them. They didn't hate us. They didn't want to beat us up. They weren't angry with me. I didn't have to deal with the hostility and the attitude. I would have to make them angry and start something with them to get into any kind of trouble. I didn't start anything with them. I didn't get in trouble. Wasn't like that with sisters. I didn't have to. With sisters, I could leave my books on my desk, come back, and they were on the ground. Like, the hell? I didn't even know who did it. I'd find out later it wasn't, usually I'd find out it wasn't even brothers. Brothers would talk stuff, but, they weren't really doing stuff like that. I'd find this out. And that's what would happen in my case. And this was common, actually, for about first year, I would say. And so, and this happened to a lot of guys. So at the end of the day, it's like, I realized I'm not the only one that went through it. There was another guy, and another guy, and another, and they all went through something similar. Whatever the type was when we was getting started off was not the exact same thing when they got older, because of who showed them love, or just was easier to deal with, even just on a friendship level. It was who treated them which kind of way. Now, if it was only the obese Vietnamese or only the ones who were so skinny that they looked the same as a skinny guy that ever showed me love or just respect, that would not have changed my type much. Because then I'd be like, okay, well, yeah, we could be friends, but I couldn't consider one of them under any circumstance because they only come at me when they don't have other options. Too big, too skinny. You don't wait until nobody else wants you to come to me. That's not how you do it. But let's say that you're talking about the ones who are nice to look at among their own. And then they start showing, well, see, that's what's happening with you brothers, man. You young, you into certain things. They don't even have to be STEM. It doesn't even have to be strictly science and math. It could be other languages. It could be geography. It could be international relationships. You can be into these things that are not certain sports, not even sports, but certain sports. I mean, think about it. If you're not making a pro athlete salary, you better not be into baseball if you're black. Now, football, basketball, you could just get a reputation around the city for being a hell of a baller. Baseball, and you ain't making a pro athlete salary, sisters don't want you. You picked the wrong sport. Same with soccer, swimming. You could make good money as a diver doing salvage diving on behalf of local governments. You could make good money doing that. If they don't know you making that kind of money, but they know you not poor, you still the wrong kind. It's not like that. So you doing this, you having interests that are not stereotypical for us, and what happens? You're not shown love. It's like you got to compensate. So, I mean, not with sisters. So your type changes because, Maria may not look down on you because you're a diver. Now, granted, in the Central American and Mexican communities, you got a lot of them women too who only want the cholos. Only. Nothing else. But they'll leave you alone. They may not come bothering you. But then you've got the other Latin Americans who they may show you some love. They may be your friends, or they may be interested, or both. Same with the ones coming in from Asia. Sometimes even Becky, and that scares the hell out of me, but that happens. And that's how a lot of you, when you think about it, that's how a lot of you, when you were young, your primary type, whatever complexion, was a sister. You got older, your conditioned type, based on experience, was something else. And a lot of you know this. What you don't know is that the other ones listening to me right now went through the same thing. That's what you're not aware of. It's a miracle that so many of us are still into sisters. It's a miracle I remained into sisters, to be honest. I'm happy with my wife. Very grateful. But it's a miracle that I was still available for sisters. And it's like this for a lot of you listening too. But you don't know that a lot of other brothers went through the same thing. And I sat down and I thought about it a little while earlier after my second recording. And I realized, because I was still thinking about, the whole colorism thing. And I realized, wait a minute, a lot of my partners, we started off middle school and they had one type. And who was it? Tracy something from Waterloo, Iowa. I forgot her full name. She made a few, teeny bop love songs. She was a type because she was on TV. Same with the Good Girls. Janet Jackson, she was a lot of people's type. The ones on Coming to America. The one that played, the one back home that the Prince Hakeem did not want, and then the one that played the American sister, and then the one that played her sister. These women were, they were someone's type, someone's primary type for my age group. We got older and things changed. And things changed largely because I wasn't running with thug niggas anyway. I could get along with them okay. I knew some cats, some friends that wanted to be thugs. Most of us wanted to know how to fight and would make sure we knew something. But straight thuggery, no. Trying to fit other people's stereotypes, we avoided that as much as possible. A lot of us did give in to the pressure. But we were done with a lot of that stuff. We were through with that. I'll never forget my homeboy. Let's call him Nation. Never forget my man's Nation. He was in the back of the bus one day and he said, no, he was on the school bus. We were going home. And he said, why does everybody have to be a thug? Now everybody got to be hard. What's wrong with being intelligent? And another one, Taj, he said, yeah, man, I know, Nation, right? The names have been changed to protect the innocent, by the way. I know, man, right? Why these dudes from the other neighborhoods got to walk around like they just too hard to dive? Everybody's gone when the bullet hits the heart. Everybody's out like a light at that point. So we struggle against that. Other homies, they did dumb stuff, even in my neighborhood. They felt guilty that they grew up in our neighborhood. A lot of us, a lot of them did dumb stuff. We had one got shot. He went to Mardi Gras in New Orleans one year. I think it was 92, 93. I think that was it. Nope. He went in 94. And he got shot. Got into an argument. He grew up in our neighborhood. Nice neighborhood. But he still had some of them old ways about him because his parents had come from a rough neighborhood and they got lucky and they were able to move up and move out and put him and raise him in our neighborhood. But I think he had kinfolks or cousins or something that would put him on a guilt trip about it. But what happened when you didn't take those routes? You ain't get shown no love in the story. Nothing else. And you got shown love from somebody else. So what I'm saying is that, brothers, most of you are still into sisters, and that's a good thing. But start telling the ones, if you gotta, in your day-to-day lives when they're talking to you, you go ahead and you tell them, look, most of us are still into sisters, but that's a miracle. Because this is what we got to go through. You complaining about colorism and featureism and stuff we didn't even think about, unless of course we got it at a young age from colorist grandmoms and moms. We weren't thinking about it. But what y'all were doing, regardless of your features and your shade and everything else, regardless of your intellect when you were young, whatever you were into, you were going after the same 13 to 15% of guys that all the other girls wanted. And you were willing to bend over their couches and take the ding-a-ling like all the other ones. And you got high body counts because they're only 13 to 15%, but it's enough for them for each one of you to get high body counts. And then when that ride is over, you want to come to the guy you weren't looking at before. We are flexible and you're not. So for us to be leaving in the small percentages and numbers that we are, says more about you than it does about us, because most of us are still sitting up here waiting on one of you. What's happening is that a lot of us are saying, okay, you ain't gonna make the cut, but we're gonna go for your black cousin over there in Brazil, Colombia, Costa Rica, the DR, Grenada, these areas, Uganda, Angola, maybe Mozambique, certainly South Africa and Ethiopia and Ghana. We certainly gonna go to them areas. Or maybe even, Philippines and Thailand, Cambodia. They say that's the lick actually, because they don't even use skin bleach. Believe it or not, you got white dudes that are saying Cambodia is a spot because they don't use skin bleach. White dudes will say this. So bruh's about to be hitting Cambodia up in a little bit. It's already started. So I'm telling you that I want you guys to understand that when they come and they talk to you about this stuff in real life and you got to engage with them, you got the ammunition. Number one, it's not that big of a deal right now yet, but the word is spreading. Number two, most of your competitors are going to be other women of color, usually black women. Number three, we didn't drive you away, you drove us away. Our types even changed as we got older based on who showed us love when they were nice to look at among their own people. Your types never changed no matter what. And even when you've got all these babies, debt, baggage, extra weight, a used up vag, all this stuff, your type still doesn't change. That's where the difference comes in. You're just willing to settle for what you don't want to get some stability out the deal. And when you finally get it, you want to go back on the side and get dug out again by the same old dudes who now are willing to spend a hell of a lot less on you than they were before when you weren't even charging them anything to begin with. Now they're looking for you to bring something to the table, to be with them, and you're willing to get another man to get his resources to bring to the table for these other guys now, the ones you've been wanting all along. That's really what it comes down to, and it's really all it's ever come down to. We get imprinted differently, and it's much easier for you to imprint than it is for us to imprint on you. So whose fault is it that we're leaving? You didn't want this, and it's gone. Congratulations. You are now free from the irritation. And that's not how they see it. But that's how you got to say it. And at the end, all this is a fancy way of me saying, we were too easy, they were too difficult, we did not drive them away, they drove us away. I hope one day that won't be true anymore. In the meantime, I hope what I said helps out. The blackest man on social media is signing black out. Assalamu alaikum and black male power.